feeling of being at a festival, which we're at.
We're at a festival.
You're back for how many times have you been at the? How many times have you been at the Maryland Film Festival?
It's my fourth movie here, but my third time being here physically.
Oh, for some reason I thought you were here more times than you were. No, but you're.
No.
Yeah.
I never, oddly enough, I never submitted my early movies. I should have.
I don't know. You're still figuring that out, right? Probably at the time, or you weren't intimidated by the idea of submitting a film to. You were probably submitting to Sundance. Thank you. Yeah.
There'll be a lot of shit to cut out now.
No, are you kidding me? Anyway, but I made it to this film minutes ago called The Great Pretender.
Yeah.
Over at the Parkway Cinema.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it was fun. It was great to catch up. It makes two in a row now, because last year I saw Thirst Street there, and now I just saw Great Pretender.
Yeah, on the massive screen. I love that. It's so funny because it was made to be a web series at first. So
is that true?
Yeah.
What happened?
We had a feeling early on in the pre-production process that it would turn into a feature, and then after a few days of production, we were almost certain. But when we first talked about it to RTP,
when you were formulating it,
and it was pitched as a web series. That's where we got the financing from.
Oh,
yeah, from Brick.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
So
they
financed
that would make sense that
it
would have been on Brick TV. I saw the
Thank you so much.
I saw the Aziz and everybody on there. Yeah. Wow. Right, and that they probably could have, maybe financially speaking, a web series that would also be something they could think they could actually have substantial help, give substantial help in.
Yeah,
I mean, if they pitched it as a film, they would say, "Well, we're not going to be able to give enough to."
Exactly. So,
but as it turns out,
yeah, it worked. I mean, they were very supportive throughout.
Right.
It ended up working out. It's a movie.
So how did you are you going to do a screening there? I don't know.
I don't know how it's going to work in the end.
Because they have that TV station channel.
I think it'll be on that station at one point.
Yeah, it better be. I would imagine that's they're going to want you to make good on that promise.
Yeah.
Anyway, so and then last year when I was watching Thirst Street, I was sitting with John Waters.
Yes.
Just so happened.
Yeah.
And he had a really good time. I was looking for him today.
Yeah, I didn't see him.
That's a bummer.
I know.
You were kind of hoping, right?
I was hoping, of course. The hero.
He's going to be here later with showing I Olga.
Yeah.
Right? Anyway, so, but this one, even though it was conceived as a web series, you obviously made this real... This is your typical style. You shoot fast, right?
Yes.
Had you even started it last year before Maryland?
Yeah, we were in the throes of pre-production when I came to Maryland.
Oh, okay.
Because we shot in June, last June.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, what happened was basically after Thirst Street, I had a bunch of notes about this story, and I sent them to Jack, and Jack wrote... Jack Dunphy.
Yeah.
And he ended up writing the pilot script for what was to be a series. And then we kind of started shopping that around, and it landed at Brick.
Was the web series, the idea supposed to be on like I don't think I'm using this term right for it, but gestation of a play?
Yes, it was the same structure, identical structure. It would have been 5 episodes and culminating in the play.
Right.
So
it would have breathed a little bit more, perhaps, because it might have breathed a little bit more because it would have been
side characters. There were more side characters.
They were written out.
Yeah,
I see. Okay. So I'm going to do a lousy job if I describe the story, but essentially you have these 2 people get caught up who are kind of in a relationship, and in the same time you have the characters in the play, right?
So
and they're kind of interwoven.
Yeah, I mean basically
I suppose
you have this French woman Mona who comes to New York to stage a play about her relationship with this guy Nick, this older photographer who left his wife for her, and then. So she makes this play about her relationship with him, and she casts an actor who she ends up having a romantic fling with, and the actress playing her falls in love with the actor playing her ex, and it's like a love quadrangle because she has to contact her ex at a certain point, so it all becomes very extraordinarily messy for them.
Right, and all manners of romantic pain and hilarity.
We wanted to make a melodrama.
Okay, yes, I could see that. So, did you have some of your influences I don't know if you had any here.
I mean, yeah, all the time.
Like
Fassbinder and Cirque are in my brain because
they're hardwired.
Yeah, hardwired in my brain.
Uh-huh.
But we were watching this movie by Pierre Clémenty for visual purposes and in terms of like, I don't know, when we were writing it, I wasn't so much thinking about the influences, but then when I started meeting up with Sean, the DP, we just watched like a shitload of movies at his apartment, and some things stuck. And there was this movie called like New York After Midnight, I think, by these French dudes who came to New York and made some cheap movies back in the 80s.
Oh.
There were two in a row, and one of them is just straight pornography. The other one is kind of like has a thriller element to it. But the way they lit certain scenes fascinated me, and I thought about like this nostalgic quality that you have for a city that you've never visited or that you've only spent a bit of time in because you've grown up watching it on like in movies.
Right.
And for like this Parisian coming to New York, and like she has this idea of it only through cinema in a few years she lived here. So I liked giving our movie like this nostalgic sense, and that's why it's very hazy and kind of gauzy.
Yeah.
And all the lighting is unmotivated by. It's not motivated.
Some of that was, I remember, also in Third Street, though.
Yeah, I'm obsessed with the past. I mean, I feel like I don't know what it is right now, but it feels.
Your past, the past or the past that you see in cinema,
the past that I've seen in cinema,
and in books and photos. And,
yes, it's more about the past that I've seen in cinema.
Yeah,
because now I realize that I associate emotion with that past that I've seen in cinema, and I have no emotional attachment to my recent past.
Right,
like what I see around seems so kind of. It's not evocative. I remember New York, like when I first moved to it in like 2001, 2002. Like I have all of these wonderful memories from that time. But after that, New York just seems like a blur. Like I have no real attachment to any of the sites that I used to like go frequent, and it just feels pretty bleak in terms of what exists. Like you go to the East Village, and there's not even a fucking bookstore you can. You can't hang out at. I used to go to Kim's and just hang out for hours. I used to go to St. Mark's Bookshop and hang out for hours. Like I would go to video stores and bookstores, and now it's just like I don't know. It's restaurants. You have to go spend money or just drink.
Right. Or Starbucks.
Yeah.
I mean, I agree.
I mean, this is like the cliche. That's the funniest part. Like, but it's so terribly on the nose that it feels like we're living. When you're living in a cliche, you feel like you're living in a nightmare. That's why I don't know. New York has lost a lot of its luster for me. I mean, I've been living there for like 17 years, and it's just, I don't know.
But you're also, if we're transitioning the conversation into your life a little bit, you spend an awful lot of time on the road.
Yes.
And I think that maybe that appeal also is this place you're at where you're kind of like disenchanted maybe with home.
I mean, the kicks I get out of being in New York or when I'm around, my friends, and there are certain nights that feel like New York nights again, where we're up until like sunrise, and it just feels like that kind of sense I had when I first got to the city. But for the most part, I just like it's. I mean, I don't know. It's pretty bleak.
It's bleak point we're at. I agree. I mean, I think this comes up a lot, and I feel the same way. I said my kid. I said, when you graduate, or when you go off to school, I'm out of here. And he goes, what? Yeah, it's not, like it's not the New York I grew up in. This doesn't remotely.
And we sound like old
resemble that. I know
we sound like old men. And I'm like 34.
But I am one. You're young.
Well, kind of. I'm about to turn 35. I don't know, but
that's a good age, though. That's a really good age.
Kind of.
You're coming into yourself completely.
I guess so. Yeah. But
totally.
If coming into yourself means coming to terms with the fact that
it's more internal.
It's more internal.
Well, you find a voice. You find your essence is completely.
I suppose, it's like living in that cinematic past, which which flourishes, and I think it flourishes at times when you don't really want to look at what's around you.
Yeah. So you're making films. Do you feel like you're making films so you're honoring that for future generations also, or even your own sense of?
It's so happy. I can have some hope.
Yeah.
So I'm like turning to the past, the cinematic past for hope.
Yeah.
But it's also, I mean, that's not ever like a conscious. It's never done consciously. It's always like, you work from the gut when you work at a fast clip. So it's like always working from the gut, and you want to make things beautiful. You want to add light where there's no light. So you add bizarre streaks of light, and then somehow it just changes the space that you're shooting. There are these, most of the apartments you shoot in are just these boxes. So how do you make them interesting? You have to add texture through light. You can't really, there's no depth to them. Mm-hmm. So it's like all the spaces that we're living in are so boring. I mean, in a bar when the lights are on, it's pretty bleak, and I feel like that's what our existence is now. It's like it's like we're living in a bar with the lights on, and we just have to look at each other. We can't be drunk and see even when you're drunk.
Soft light.
Yeah. So I want to in the movies I want it to be soft light and then a harsh reality, in terms of like what the characters are going through.
So coming back to The Great Pretender, which I kind of like now the name all the more because it's about pretending. It's about the point is it seems like in the play is where I kind of felt like where everything comes to a sort of a crescendo there. Yeah. Everything comes to a certain point where all of a sudden they're improvising. You're playing out their real relationships right on the stage and all, and you have really made it into kind of like a satire almost at a certain point. Poor Keith Poulson, he's no actor. He admits that I don't know if I'm giving away stuff I shouldn't, but I don't think it matters so much. I mean, I don't think so, but let me know.
Yeah, of course.
But he admits that he's never done. He's not.
His
an
character's
actor.
never acted before.
His character hasn't.
I mean, that's all. Yeah. Not Keith Poulson. Keith Poulson acts a lot.
I know. Now I'm confusing myself. The play within the film, and then he panics, and then Linas Phillips, who plays the real life, comes in and becomes the actor in the play. It's kind of a nice. Just nice poetry there.
It was something like Jack and I had discussed, but then we didn't know how it would actually work on paper. And then we had multiple versions of it, and finally it clicked into place.
That's funny.
Right before the shoot, Jack came with a new draft, and it just we knew that all these elements had to collide at the end, but we just didn't know in what, because he wrote it section by section. So it was, it was kind of, it wasn't like a full script that was delivered.
Right, because you were creating as you in other words.
No. We had the full script by the time we shot, but what I mean to say is that he would deliver like the Mona section, then Chris's section, then Teresa's section, then Nick's section, then the play. So it was each one we would rewrite, like we would get into a point we liked, and then we would move on to the next one.
Oh, okay. And that's kind of how it's presented too in the chapters.
Yes. It was always structured that way.
I see, right, because it was a series. So you kind of kept that structure in place. Interesting, okay. So you have 2 or 3 things coming up, films, production. I'm kidding around.
Yeah, I mean, we're doing reshoots for this movie that it used to be called The Pervert. We're uncertain of the title at the moment, but we're doing reshoots next week, and then we'll be editing that all summer. And, that I'm co-directing with Jack Dunphy, and then I'm writing scripts. I want to make. I've grown exhausted of making micro-budget affairs. It's just been one after another, and it becomes it's emotionally draining, and so I'm trying to take a little bit more time because I want to be able to actually have some money to put into preparation, because these things you are doing them around. You're working on so many other things at the same time as you're preparing that when you get to production, so much has to come together during production. I would love to have some more preparation. I'd love to have more shoot days. I'd love to have elaborate shots that I can actually dream about for a bit of time instead of just like vomit.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not that it's vomited out. It's just like that's
maybe
how it feels after a
while.
while.
Use a different term.
Yeah.
I'm kidding. I know what you mean though. But it seems like such a decision, a conscious choice that you've made to work in this very quick way to be really, really prolific. Was it just this or sense of urgency that and you felt had to feed it? Is that why you've been doing? Because you've come out with like a film a year, like the last 5 years or something like that.
7 years.
7, excuse me.
So it's just been
that's
exhausting.
Insane.
Yeah. I mean,
but it's your choice. You didn't have to do that.
I didn't have to do it, but
you were caught
I don't
up
have to do it consciously.
Wave.
But I mean, like the problem is that the filmmaking is so fraught. Like it's so full of rejection, getting rejected from festivals, getting rejected from getting negative reviews, just being told off, making very little money. So what you do in order to basically continue working is before those things are even on the table, because you're still editing one movie, you start preparing the next one. So because if not, like, you might wait until you hear, like, you see how badly the movie does festival wise or theatrically, and then you're heartbroken and you don't want to move on to the next one. So it's like a way of self-protection. It's a way to protect myself.
Yeah. And then also because you're going through all this painful breakup with the city of New York. I mean, you're kind of, I understand.
I think, like, it's just, the last few years have been odd. There have just been...
And now, by the way, I'm sorry to interrupt you. I want to come right back to your thought. But I understand, by extension, your love of, what I gather is a love of Paris.
Yes.
I get it.
But it's a museum of a city.
Right.
The great Paris lived in the past.
You can't just put steel glass everywhere and get rid of everything and replace everything with CVS.
Yeah.
They won't stand for it.
They won't, but it's still like a museum of a city.
Yeah.
It's not when I went there when I was, 25, I went there to study filmmaking, and I ended up dropping out of the program because it was so awful. But I felt so bored there after being in New York, because it's just like, it feels so dead. But then, going back and shooting Third Street there, I realized, like, I want to be in a museum of a city. It was very pleasurable. But then, of course, all the fucking French want to come to New York, and a certain, like, they have a desire.
Like wife swap.
I know.
City swap.
City swapping.
Yeah.
But, I don't know. There's something about it now that I find really appealing. I have very good friends there, and it kind of puts me at ease. Like, I go and I feel a bit. Maybe it's like I'm ready to be an adult. I'm ready to enter the museum of the city instead of being in a place which I thought was like full of life, thriving and insane, chaotic. Paris feels a little better.
Yeah,
to me.
Yeah.
I mean,
7 years ago, you were a very young guy, and you're still a young guy, as I mentioned. But But it's where your head's at.
Yeah. But it's weird to. I guess these movies all reflect, obviously, because they're made at such a rapid pace, they reflect whatever given mental state I'm in at the time. And so after a while, you just start to, you sit with, like, I'll watch a movie I've made from a few years ago at, like, if there's a college screening or something, just to see what the hell it is, because I don't remember.
Really?
And then I'm like, I don't know what caused me to make that. I don't know I don't know where the ideas come from. It's never some rational. It shouldn't be, I don't think, because I think if anything is rational, it's kind of boring from the get-go. Like, I get bored by anything that seems like it makes sense. So I'm like, it's always struggling to figure out exactly what to do next, but it's always working against what I've just done and trying to figure out how to either improve it, pervert it, distort it. Like, I don't even know what to do, but, like, somehow work with what I've just made, because I don't want to get bored.
Well, no, I interrupted you before. I'm sorry, because I can't. I was going to try to remember where you were going. So, but anyway, lastly, I don't know how you managed to talk your mom off the ledge in this case, because I just saw her for a second in an audience, literally in the theater audience of that scene that I was talking about before, where everything comes to a head with your four main characters, and there was just an audience a shot of the audience at the end clapping, because it's it's just this satirical moment and everybody loves all this, and they don't necessarily think it's actually written as the play, right? Or they may. I don't know. It's up to us to figure out. Yeah, I guess. But anyway, so she didn't get a talking part. She must have been.
She had a part in the movie, and then we had to cut out the scene because it didn't make sense. Yeah.
She hates when you do that.
I know. I already did. With actor Martinez, she said that caused her to, go into a deep depression. She blames me for that.
It might have been the timing also, though, back then.
No. She says it's...
again? Really?
No, I mean, I'm joking.
Back then, they were. She was in a hard...
It was a bad time, man.
Yeah. It was,
cut out of the movie.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to make a movie about my mother's hatred of acting and how she also needs acting and how it caused her to go into a deep depression when I cut her out of the movie.
She was hanging on to that, obviously, for some reason. It was so important to her. Oh, well.
In any case.
You wrote a very nice part in Third Street. So this goes out. So I have to say this, we'll dedicate this segment to Harvey Silver.
Exactly. My father, I mean...
who's also in that theater shot.
He's in the theater shot, too, and he's a wonderful man.
Yeah. Where is this playing next? We can hold on to this segment until...
I don't know where it's playing next.
We
don't
really?
really know.
Oh, okay.
I honestly don't know because we've just started submitting.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right, very good. Well, the name of the film is called The Great Pretender. Director is still Nathan Silver. And end of scene.
Thank you.